Welcome back to another episode of NASCAR Fantasy Fastlane. I'm your host, Steve Letarte. Joining me on the couch, guys, I don't know what it says about our group, but the group continues to get smaller. I have my man RJ in the corner, Twitterless Russell in the center. I don't really want to relive Bristol, but we have to, guys. I want to tell the whole story. So we sat here, and I was so confident with my lineup last week, feeling pretty good. Even after practice, I went up Saturday, watched Xfinity race, watched practice. Harvick is ripping the bottom. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's my guy. He's my anchor. Sunday morning, my son and I are working out in the garage a little bit, getting the jet ski ready to go in the water. My phone's buzzing. What's the deal? Like, red alert, red alert. Kevin Harvick, issues in inspection, will have to do a pass-through at the worst track of the year, other than maybe Martinsville would be just as bad, to do a pass-through. So I won't lie, guys. Panic mode, full panic mode, had to adjust my lineup. And I went with Kyle Larson, and I haven't lived it down since because my man over here thinks it was a bad call.
Well, I don't necessarily think it was a bad call, but all last show you were telling me how I'm going to be late to the party on Kyle Larson. It's okay. I'm going to be late to the party.
Well, I didn't know I was going to have a game-time decision because somebody was going to start in pit road. How about you? How was your week? Do you want to tell your whole story? Guys, I scored this. Oh, no, I didn't.
Well, there was a misunderstanding there. But last week I said that I said that Bristol was like a wild card for me, and I didn't want to use any good guys.
You called
so
that. That's A+.
I didn't use any good guys, and I was happy with that, even though I didn't score a lot.
So I have a question. The guys that you did use, should they be crushed that you don't consider them good guys? Like, should we send them all text messages and say, just so you know, Russell doesn't think you guys are good?
I'd rather if you didn't.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up. So my lineup ended up being Jimmy Johnson, solid day, 33 points. I was happy with that at Jimmy Johnson. Ryan Blaney, 46 points. Love that out of Ryan Blaney. I left Kevin Harvick in my garage. He only scored 24 points. I'm thankful I left him in the garage. Even though he did recover okay from the penalty, his loose wheels really is what did him in more than anything. You don't use Kevin Harvick for only 24 points. But the big letdown probably Chase Elliott, 27 points is hit or miss. Erik Jones and Kyle Larson both sabotaged my lineup. I know they're more disappointed in the run than they are about my lineup, but it hurt my lineup.
Yeah, I had Erik Jones, and I had Ricky Stenhouse, and I didn't want to put Harvick in, so Harvick was in my garage, so I just left Stenhouse in for 4 points.
And after a couple weeks ago when he texted me and I gave him bad suggestion, he didn't even text to get my opinion this time.
I got saved by Kyle Busch.
You went to the
I
well.
went with him in the garage, thinking he's won prior to Sunday, 6 of his 7 wins at Bristol. He had started outside the top 10. Was playing a little bit of a hedge. Was only going to activate him in a doomsday scenario. I felt like there was a doomsday scenario early. Put him in. Had Boyer. That also helped. But the thing that kind of got me a little bit and cost me like 15 points or so was, so Jones gets the free pass at the end of stage 2.
Mm-hmm.
Elliott's got the power steering issue. There are like 5 or 6 positions separated between them.
But I liked your call here.
I don't like leaving the points on the table.
I know. So the story is he had to either decide between Chase Elliott, Erik Jones. Went with Erik Jones. I thought that was the best decision as well. Chase recovered nicely. Popeye, man, my man. I mean, he driving no power steering at Bristol. I'm impressed.
So he did come back, though.
From what I understand, it came and went, but he had most of it for the end of the race, which was needed. But hey, listen, that's Bristol. I call it short track season. We go from Bristol to Richmond. Guys, there's not a better week in my mind, right? So we raced the spectacular Coliseum of Bristol. Now we go to short track racing at Richmond. It's Masters week if you're a golf fan. It doesn't get any – this is it, right? Spring is here. It's drying out. The rain has stopped in North Carolina. Nothing's going to put me in a bad mood, even my pitiful performance at Bristol. But I think it's also time to reflect on the year. Guys, 8 races in. Last year at this point, we didn't need to talk numbers, right? I mean, Jessica and I had this argument every year. Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Kevin Harvick. They're going to run good everywhere they were. This is last year, right? So you don't even worry about the numbers. You just put them in. Just decide where you want to play them. Here we are, 8 weeks. Are there guys that you don't care about their track numbers? You're looking at them every week.
I mean, Kyle Busch.
Wouldn't weigh out on a limb. That's a pretty thick limb he's standing on right there.
I mean, if you're asking for more, I would probably throw Logano.
So can we all agree, Kyle Busch?
Yes.
Is there let me go to this way. Is there a track that you say, oh, I definitely wouldn't have Kyle Busch?
Talladega.
All right. So Kyle Busch is one. We're going to go through his numbers because each week you can't play him every week, so we want the fans to understand kind of where they're at. But knowing that you're going to have Kyle Busch in your lineup, are there other names that you have to consider regardless of their track numbers?
I think by and large Logano.
Keselowski.
I'm going to take both of those, and I was going to also say Denny Hamlin is having I don't want to call it a career year because he's had some great years, but the numbers would say that he's on path for a career year.
This is a career year so far for him.
So I might jump on the Hamlin bandwagon, strike while the iron's hot, especially going to Richmond. So let's jump right into Richmond. Let's talk about those big names. Let's kick it right off. Let's just get it out of the way. We have to talk Kyle Busch. He's in the discussion each and every week. So Richmond, 3/4 mile, Kyle Busch. There's no reason, numbers-wise, you wouldn't run him.
He swept both races last year.
It's his second.
You know what that's called?
Dropping the mic.
Dropping the mic is what he said right there.
It's his second best track based on average finish.
Okay, I agree. So I would go out on a limb that said if you're listening to this right here and you somehow have used him 8 times, you're going to officially use him 9 because you better have him in your lineup at Richmond.
Yep.
I cannot give him. All right, so let's just jump right off. Let's go to his teammates. 2 teammates. I'm going to talk about 2 of them here specifically. Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. I'm going to leave Erik Jones out of the conversation to start because in my mind, I am all in at Joe Gibbs Racing at Richmond. I'm going to have all 3. I'm going to have Truex, Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. Denny Hamlin, not only is it a hometown track, not only does he have 3 wins there, not only is he having a career year, he's just, I mean, I'm in on the Hamlin thing. And then Truex, though, I won't say it because Russell will. He has had a crappy start to the season. I have been disappointed. A lot of arguments. You can say he's been better. Just things haven't gone his way. Last year he didn't have any of those issues. I think he comes out of the rut at Richmond. I'm not saying a win, but I expect to see him in the top 5.
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
That's why I looked at you.
Even though I agree with you when we get to the lineup portion, does his slow start make you think twice and maybe make you think about riding somebody else that's a little hotter?
Let's be clear. My finger will be right on the garage trigger with Martin Truex Jr. Like, yeah, if it's not there 50 laps in.
Oh, I don't even mean Saturday night. I'm talking like Friday after practice.
Yeah,
qualify.
so I won't lie. If it doesn't show up in practice, I don't care if they practice. You're going to give me all these reasons. The simple fact is, if he's – look, I knew where you were going,
I was
right?
just going to ask that question.
If he's not close to where his teammates are, then this may be a game-time decision and not be in my lineup. But right now I'm heavy in on Gibbs.
But isn't – like he's going to a track where he's really good. Led the most laps in 4 of the last 5 races. He's passed for the win in 3 of the last 5 races at Richmond. So does coming here in this little slump help him?
I do. I think when you walk into tracks where you have confidence, helps. What I don't know is what's hurting Martin Truex Jr. this year. Is it truly bad luck? Is it the rules? Is it the team trying to figure out how to work within the organization of Joe Gibbs Racing?
Is it the loss of the engineer?
Is it the loss of the engineer?
As Russell talked about?
I actually think it's number 4. I think the engineer leaving is hurting. I think that's one of the reasons why Kurt Busch is excelling. So at today's –
But they haven't run bad. They just haven't run like we've seen.
They just haven't run good? Was that the word you were looking for?
The one
because that looked like that's the word you were looking for.
They haven't run great.
I'm going to call my nephew. He's a few years younger than my son, so he's in like 3rd or 4th grade. I think they're doing antonyms. I'll say, hey, what's the opposite of good? And he's going to say.
So if you went,
I rest my case.
So if you went purely by average finish, he's had a better average finish this year through 8 races.
Interesting. I would have never guessed that because he had one big DNF.
Well, I'm not going there.
The thing I kind of like about Truex this weekend is the Pern since he's been his crew chief races that transition from late afternoon, early evening to full on nighttime racing. Truex is almost always dialed in.
I will, but, are the adjustments coming from the engineer that you see
it's a fair point.
sit next to him, or is it because of their communication? Like, Cole Pern is a smart guy. I'm not knocking him. But I sat up there, right? Dale Jr. and I would have never been as successful as we were without Kevin Mendering. I mean, it's just simple fact, right? He led us in a lot of good directions because he understood the dynamics of the vehicle. I don't know where it is. All right, so let's just close out Joe Gibbs Racing. Kyle Busch, we're all in on. Anybody going against Denny Hamlin? No, everybody's bullish on Denny Hamlin. Martin Truex Jr., I think, is I am thinking, yes, he's going to have to, instead of going into the weekend saying, prove to me he can run good there, he's going to have to go there and prove to me I shouldn't play him. I think he's going to be pretty good. Let's jump on Erik Jones, short track kid. I mean, it's not Bristol, though.
I think he's got too much pressure on him. With Christopher Bell.
Pressure?
You don't think?
You got the floor. Go ahead.
Well, with Christopher Bell doing as well as he's doing, there's only 4 spots at a team. He's got to be the one that feels the most pressure. And I think the pressure is starting to get to this kid.
So I don't think it's the pressure at all. I'm going to disagree with you there, but I agree with you that I'm not looking at Erik Jones for the simple fact of, I don't know, that place kind of races a little like Martinsville where younger drivers just kind of get pushed around. And I think there's other tracks that he's going to be better at, so I'm just going to wait and see.
I agree. Nothing he's done at Richmond in his previous history makes me want to play him.
Well, then, if you don't take Erik Jones and you're heavy on Gibbs, is it pretty safe to say that go ahead there? I'm going to call you. I mean, it's Roger Penske, Walter Zarniak, and RJ. I mean, those are the three. Those are the three guys at Team Penske. So,
I mean, I'm going to surprise you a little bit. If I'm going heavy with Busch and Hamlin, I don't see how I would play the Penske guys.
All right, I completely disagree. I'm going to have both the 2 and the 22, and maybe even the 12 in my lineup.
The 12?
Yeah.
Are you serious? This is his worst track statistically.
You remember you said that.
I'm going to.
I'm going to have the 2 and the 22 for sure.
I agree with you there.
Right now, I am.
So you already put your lineup.
I'm a little ahead today. A little ahead. Got plans later
Wow.
today, so I really jumped
This is
on.
impressive.
So I'm on the 2, and here's why. He won from the pole, leading basically, let's call it all the laps. How about this? He didn't lead 17 of them back in 2014. This aero package at the short tracks, I know there's a lot of different, at the short tracks, this is in that realm. A lot of spoiler, a lot of downforce. I'm going to tell you, though, just for the little side note, I was up at Bristol talking to Brian Patty, and we were talking about the aero package. He goes, have you looked underneath one of these things this year? I'm like, well, no. I mean, I don't like to invade. He goes, you have to go look at that radiator pan. I'm like, no, I got the dimensions. And he knows the years I was around, and I'm like, I laid underneath it. Holy smokes, it's gigantic. It is like twice. I know how big it was, but until I saw it underneath the car, it's huge.
So what does that do?
Makes a ton of front downforce, but more importantly, what it does is it makes the front splitter height super sensitive. There's a radius on the splitter leading to this big pan, so you have to control the nose of these race cars. Even at Richmond, the guy that controls the nose better on the braking instead of slamming down the racetrack has a big advantage. Therefore, Brad Keselowski, 2014, last time we saw this arrow.
How do you say his name?
Keselowski. I had my coffee going. I had a little coffee going in the middle of Keselowski. I got to call it Keselowski, and then I hear every time Dale Jr. says it, it sounds different, and he used to employ him. So I would think he got it right, but maybe I'm wrong there. So I have Bad Brad for sure, and when I look at Joey Logano, it's real simple. Penske's a short-run car, short-run speed car, and I want him in there. I want him bullish. I think it's going to be a late restart, and he's going to come coming up through the field. And to be clear, I'm bad in all of my leagues, and I need to gain some points. So I'm all in.
So you're just Gibbs and Penske, and we haven't even got to Stewart-Haas yet. So you're out on Stewart-Haas.
No, you get 6 people. I'm 2 Gibbs for sure, Truex maybe, 2 Penske for sure. Leaves a lot of room in the stalls.
Okay. I mean, I like the 2 and the 22 here, but for me, it's coming down to I've got to manage some uses, and I don't want to. I'm
done with that managing crap.
Well,
I'm all in.
I've got a lead, and you don't. So.
Listen, I'm not joking. That's fuel mileage. That's how it works. When you're the lead, you can half throttle that thing.
So
I'm burning fuel. I'm wide open.
So I mean, to be clear, I do think Logano is a very good play.
Just to be clear, I'm not listening to a thing you say about Team
I know
Penske.
you're not. I know you're not.
So this is what we've learned so far in 8 weeks. That if you're going to talk to 19, Russell is useless. And if you're going to talk Team Penske, RJ might as well be up on the 8th floor, working at his computer, typing away.
Well, I am out on Blaney for this one.
I got a little carried away. You guys are both right. When I look at Ryan Blaney, I'm not playing him either. He's a complete avoid. It's his worth racetrack. I don't know how I got all in there. I did. I'm thankful.
You were on tilt, man. You were on tilt.
I was on tilt. I was like so in love with Penske, but I was on tilt. So Ryan Blaney's out. All right, so we talked Joe Gibbs Racing. We talked Team Penske. Now the question is, what about SHR, Stewart-Haas Racing? It was a rough start at Bristol for Kevin Harvick. In the race, though, we saw some guys come and go throughout the race.
He had the best car. It's hard to argue it in the best car.
I agree. So funny story. Do you think, remember a week ago, his quote was he hadn't had a winning car all year. Goes to Bristol, man, he had a winning car. Nothing went right, but had a winning car. So have they turned the corner? Where do you stand on SHR at Richmond?
I'm in on Harvick.
All right. That's.
And I could be in on Boyer, too. I think Boyer's
Please, you have the floor.
A good garage pick for you.
Because you think you'll know by the end of the second stage? Talk to the fans. Tell them why you say garage.
So I think Boyer's numbers are hard when you look at them, just pure numbers. But he's run so much better this year. He's a short track guy. you're going to know if he's any good by the end of the second stage.
And I have no idea if the numbers agree with this, but my gut tells me he is the opposite of what a Matt Kenseth used to do, what a Ryan Newman does. And what I mean by those guys, you don't see them all day, nowhere to be found. And then all of a sudden, there he is. Like, I'm not saying winning, but, oh, man, look at that. You look going down the running order, but, man, what a good run for Kenseth. Remember how many times he would do that? Man, what a good run for Kenseth. That's not really Boyer, right? Like, he is either there or he's not there. So I agree. I like that on Boyer. Kevin Harvick, I think, is, man, my lineup is getting ready to be heavy.
You're full.
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting full at the end. So let's talk about the other two while we're here.
I like the other two.
Every time I see Erik Almirola, I picture that run he had in the 43 car back during the playoffs. I know it has nothing to do with nothing, but it was like a career race that night.
He had the most stage points at Richmond last year.
Ooh, you're going way in depth.
Most stage points.
Yeah, but what about pure points?
Scour?
He had the
scour?
fourth most at 41 for both races.
That would be a good use out of Erik Almirola. Let's just be clear.
It would, but
let's also be clear. He may or may not be in my lineup.
Just to be clear, RJ, you say that about everybody.
He's finished 17th in 2 of the last 3 there. So I got to.
Yeah, but the points were there.
Yeah. Whoa. You can't say finishing 17th.
Yeah, the points were there.
If you run in the top 5 of both stages and finish 17th, you get top 10 points.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm just clearing it up for the people at home that you're misleading.
Almirola is a top 10 guy now, though.
You mean expectations.
Mm-hmm.
He's no longer fast food.
Right.
Like, because I like, me, I like my food. Like to eat. So I look at, you have fast food, which is top 15. Then you have like a step up from fast food. I call it like, your Applebee's, your Chili's. It's a sit down, but it's still kind of pre-prepared. They're a top 10 type guy. Then you go to high-end cuisine, which is top 5 type drivers. Mm-hmm. So you're saying he's like in that middle road.
Yeah, he's like an Outback.
The Outback, that's a great SHR. They send you a blooming onion for that? That's so well done. I like an Outback now, that blooming onion. I will say, I cheer on Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott because there's food rewards if they run good. I won't say. I'm like, I could care less until then. I'm like, hey, blooming onion Monday. We got to get him running.
And how hard was it when Chase finished 11th?
I know.
No fried pickles. No fried pickles for Letarte.
For like 11th, it's like, oh, man, like maybe
so
a half order. Can I get a half order? But it didn't work out. All right, so we talked to 14. We talked to 10. We talked to 4.
What about Suarez?
So
ride the wave, man. Ride it. He's got something right now. And
really?
and Richmond's one of his better tracks.
I hate it, but I agree with him.
He's
not going to be in my lineup, but that's not a bad pick by any means.
So give the fan – because, listen, let's be clear. We talk a lot about our lineups, but the other job we have here, people listen to this podcast because they have to set their lineup. We can't have a reason to put Kevin Harvick not in your lineup unless you have a usage issue or something like that. Clint Boyer, you're saying you love Garage because you think it's either going to show up or it isn't by the end of Stage 2. Erik Almirola, you're pretty bullish on. You say it's a pretty lot of point guy. Yeah. Guy in the middle says not so much. So the couch is a little bit split. Now we're on to Daniel Suarez. Tell me why a fan should have Daniel Suarez in the lineup.
I like that he seems to have found a rhythm with the new team. 3 straight top 10s. He's averaged over 35 points in that stretch. Richmond.
Man, I would have took 35 points last week.
Richmond is one of his better tracks when he was at Gibbs. Now some of that is some of that you can chalk up to the fact that Gibbs is really good there. But I would also put a lot of stock in the fact that he's run really well for the better part of the past month. The kicker for me is I haven't used him, and I'm going to be looking for what I call an out. If somebody I expect to perform well is not performing well, I want to be able to turn to somebody that I don't have a problem burning a use with, and Suarez is that guy.
That's some deep strategy right there, but I like where he's at. I didn't have all the same terminology he had, but I know exactly what he means.
You don't have an out?
Oh, I have an out. Basically what he's saying is if you're 9 holes into golf and you have hit your driver in the woods on every hole, you reach down in the bag, grab you an iron, hit you something in the fairway. That's basically what he's saying right here. When you reach down in your golf bag and you have 1 ball left and there's water in play, you're like, oh, man, this is not good. I know what he's talking about. We've all been there. We have an out. Listen, it happens on top of a crew chief has the same thing. Like, you go into the weekend trying stuff, but you always have, and you don't know if it's going to work, but you always have that piece of paper where you're like, man, listen, if none of this works, we're going to put this setup in for qualifying. Right. We're just going to print it and ship it. Put that in while I try to figure out what we're going to do. So you have You have to have. I just didn't know fantasy players were getting quite to that detail, but apparently they are. So, all right. So we talked probably the big. I'll call them the big three at the moment, even though Stewart-Haas Racing has yet to go into victory lane. I think SHR, Joe Gibbs, and Team Penske are all the big three that we're talking about. But it's more than just NASCAR Fantasy Live. Each and every week, you could play the NASCAR Props Challenge. 10 props every week. You get a point if you're right. A point goes away if you're wrong. So you can be in the negative. I've heard rumors about it. It has happened to me twice, actually. But not for me last week. Big time last week. Guys, +6 on the props game last week. Plus. Big swing.
If you know it's happened, how is it a rumor? You can confirm it happens.
Okay, yeah, well, you know what we're getting ready to do? We're going to have a 2 on the couch next week.
So what's your 2-week total, like the last 2 weeks?
0, I think.
Yes.
I think it's 0 because I went from -6 to, you know.
Not that it carries over, but it's.
But in Russell's world, it does.
It carries over.
It does.
Because that's what I'm leading in, just so everybody knows.
So Russell came up with this idea that we should do props, which is not how the game is designed, but whatever. 6 points I got. I was going to look at the standing and see how many 10s we had. Do you know?
It was like 43.
43
10s? It was a high week.
Holy smokes, I don't feel so good about my 6 anymore. Although, what'd you do?
I was 4.
But
steady,
I bet you
slow and steady.
I was 4 too. But I bet you if Di Benedetto, who I think finished like 12th, if he scores a top 10, that number shrinks.
He was there until the last yellow.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, that's one I got wrong. I had Matty D inside the top 10. Look at
which other one?
Red. I got. I went.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I went under on the lead changes.
Yeah.
I got the rest right. Matty D. I'm telling you, I was looking at my chart. I'm like, Matty D's in the top 10. I'm gonna be like 8 points, new record. Wah wah wah. So all right. Well, that was Bristol. Let's talk Richmond. Richmond props. Come on, props master. Shall I read these off, or you got some great ones?
I like the first one off the bat, the Amarola Boyer one.
Which Stewart-Haas driver finishes higher at Richmond, Erik Amarola or Clint Boyer?
So this looks like a side bet here.
I was getting ready to say.
I mean, I think Amarola will get more points, but I could see Boyer finishing higher.
Okay.
That would be a good prop bet. Who will score more points?
There's 1.1 we're going to get to that I'm
All
particularly
right.
proud
So
of.
Erik Amarola, Clint Boyer. That's going to be my avoid, I think, for the week. I think I might not play 10 this week. I say that every week, and I always do, but I don't know about that one.
He can't help himself.
I know.
He can't.
Over, under, 1.5 drivers lead over 90 laps at Richmond. Under. There will not be 2 drivers that will lead 90.
I tend to agree with you.
It's a
on that.
shorter race. You lose 100 from Bristol right away.
Right.
So I'm going
and
under.
one guy there usually leads for at least half.
The only time it doesn't happen is if there's a timely caution where the field gets split. So, all right, we're gonna move over that one pretty quick because I think that's what the guys have to decide at home. Does Joe Gibbs Racing win their 6th race of the season?
That's a tough one.
You know you're having a good year when that's a tough one.
Well, because usually it's a no, right?
I would bet against every company. I mean,
Right.
I would take the numbers, but I would bet against Joe Gibbs Racing most everywhere. Just because, but since Denny's having such a good year and he's so good at Richmond, I think I might actually have to take the yes here, and I'm going to go in on Denny Hamlin. He's going to be my winner pick.
See, my yes would be because I think Truex turns it around, and that gives me 3.
And Truex is going to win, you're saying?
I think he turns it around, which gives them 3 threats.
Well, then
to
listen,
win.
if you're on Truex, let's jump right down to it. I think this is an outstanding prop. Will Martin Truex Jr. score more than 10.5 stage points? So let's explain it to everyone. 10 for first, 1 for 10th. So 2 fourths, 2 thirds.
So there's 20 possible.
20 possible. But so I'm just trying to give the fan So here's the thing: if he strikes out in a stage, can't do it.
Right.
So he has to score at least a 10th place finish in the first stage. But then he'd have to win the second. Man, that is a great prop bet right there.
So I think it's too low, though.
Oh, I disagree. I think that is really, really.
If they were running like they ran last year, I agree.
It's too low if you say Kyle Busch, because he's going to run inside the top 5.
But I think based on
When's
how
the last time Martin Truex Jr. ran inside the top 5 in a stage? Yeah, your computer's you're gonna have to get a new battery.
He'll give us
Martinsville.
What about Bristol? He was up there until his trouble.
Intel, but the problem is that Intel is a big.
Yeah.
I like that bet, and I like that number.
He's won 2 stages.
So he won both stages last year, or last fall.
Listen, he did a lot last year. I mean, you sound like that guy, but fuel used to be 30 cents a gallon. I don't care what he did back then.
Fair enough.
How about Denny Hamlin? Inside the top 5? I think you have to go bullish and say yes. I think he's going to win, so I'm not going to change my thing now. Kevin Harvick leads all active drivers with 23 top 10 finishes. Does he add another? I feel that's a softball. But I will say.
I didn't write that one.
but here's the thing. You know why I like softballs? Because that's how you flip.
You can tell which ones I wrote, Russell,
But
because
here-
they have 0.5 on them.
But here's my point. We all think that's an easy yes. Right? We all think it is. And so isn't 99.9% of the prop players. There you go, RJ. I want you to see if the guys upstairs, the smart guys in the back that check the algorithms, all this stuff, see how many people go against Kevin Harvick.
Okay.
Because I think it's good. But my point is, if you're swinging for the fences and he does have an issue, you could be the only one. I would tell you, if he doesn't,
I think if you're going for a perfect score, you got to go against them.
if he doesn't finish in the top 10, the question is, will we have a perfect score? I say no.
I'd say yes.
So-
Somebody will.
Over under Hendrick drivers inside the top 10 at 1.5.
That's
I
a tough one.
feel like this is a prop on Jimmy Johnson, essentially,
Okay, so I disagree.
because I think Elliott is close to a lock for the top 10.
Okay, but Jimmy Johnson of Richmond, nope, not at night. You could take all of Jimmy Johnson's Richmond stats, and they all happen either in rainouts or day races. So when it comes to night racing at Richmond, I actually think he'll be the third or fourth Hendrick car, even though he's running better.
He's been good there lately.
I was gonna say 7 top 10s in his last 9. Some of those were night. Some of those were night.
So this is the stat for this prop bet. They've had 2 finish in the top 10 the last 3 races there.
I'm all in.
But who have they been? Jimmy and Chase.
They're both in the race this weekend.
No, I'm saying those have been the 2.
He doesn't know. That's why I didn't tell you.
Yes, I believe those are.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, that's a bet on Jimmy Johnson.
All right, you got odds? You got odds?
I do have.
All right,
odds.
well, before we jump into odds, that is it, guys. That's how the props challenge work each and every week. 10 props. Pick one and get it right. You get a point. Pick one, get it wrong, minus a point. You can go in the negative. Every week it resets. It's a fun game. Go on, sign up, invite your buddies. It is a great way to have a little wager on Sunday with some of your friends, or this week, Saturday night, to see who's buying, in our case, coffee. Someone else, maybe it's dinner. Perhaps an adult beverage. You never know. On Saturday night somewhere, maybe there's a wager going on. So let's jump right into the odds. We had some great odds last week. Are these courtesy of our friends at the Westgate Casino?
They are.
Oh, all right. What do you got? I could see the smile. Okay, hold on. All right. So the favorite has to be Kyle Busch.
Yeah. What do you think it is?
I would say it's probably no. It's worse than that. It's probably.
You think it's 2-1?
No, it's not that good. It's not. It's probably. I was gonna say
3-2.
3-2 is what I was gonna say.
Russell was on the ball. 2 to 1. 2 to 1 odds.
I just he's insane at Richmond, and he's just so good this year.
2-1. What's the next favorite?
7 to 1. We got 4
So
drivers.
let's just be clear. I see a lot of sports books for a lot of events like this, like golf and racing, because there are a lot of guys that can win. When there's a gap from 2-1 to 7-1, that is basically that's the casino saying, Uncle,
Yeah.
we don't want any more Kyle Busch action. All right, 7-1.
7 to 1. Harvick.
For the record, though, I don't think Kyle Busch is a good bet at 2-1.
Harvick 7 to 1. Keselowski 7 to 1. Logano 7 to 1. Truex 7 to 1.
Those are A+ lines. I like them all. I don't like Truex. He should be somewhere 10 to 14. He hasn't done it this year. None of them excite me at 7-1. I think much like last week, if one of those drivers is your driver, 7-1, fine. You can entice the race a little bit, but I don't think it's an investment. You're not putting your kids through college on any of those.
10 to 1. Denny Hamlin.
That's better.
It's better.
Probably where Truex should be, to be honest.
I agree. You're telling me that Truex is a bigger favorite than Hamlin? If you want a heads-up bet, I'm taking Hamlin all day, every
Agreed.
day. That was nothing. You see, I was trying to
No.
little fly fish, nothing.
We might have something with the SHR one.
Okay,
We
all
might.
right.
Blaney and Chase Elliott 12 to 1.
That's where Truex should be.
I don't understand how Chase and Ryan are the same odds for this race. Just
Because
based
how
on
well
the
Blaney's running.
that feels
And
like
he's a Penske guy.
That feels like a sucker bet.
He has gone all the way to the sucker bet.
For this track.
How about this? These are all decent odds. I don't like the Truex one. The rest are all fine. Nothing has excited me.
All right, 20 to 1. Maybe we'll get you excited here. Clint Boyer.
Value bet right there. Instantly, that's a value bet. You're telling me that same thing. I would take Clint Boyer over Chase Elliott, heads up.
Do you want me to continue? Or do
Yes.
You want, okay. Eric Almirola, 20 to 1.
We just had this conversation.
Yeah.
I think Boyer's going to outrun him.
We'll get back to that.
Where's my guy?
Kyle Larson, 21. Your guy's coming. I like the value on your guy.
Kyle Larson, I was completely against. In a moment of weakness on Sunday, I put him in because Kevin Harvick was making laps in inspection. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't have time to prepare. I'm back to, like, did you see the tweet he sent out? Kyle Larson on Sunday, the basketball hitting him in the head. It was out. We put it on NASCAR America because I was thankful to see he had a little bit of humor because nothing is going right for the poor guy. So until I
I'm
agree.
back to your line of thinking that you had initially last week. Like, I need to see it.
I got to see it.
I need to see it.
Got to see it. I got to see it.
This is, I think, the best bet we've got so far. Kurt Busch, 25-1.
I'm in.
I
Holy
like that.
smokes.
I like that one a
ding,
lot.
Ding, ding, sound the alarm. Who set that line? If you want action on Kurt Busch at 25-1, you better get money in quick.
He's also good at Richmond.
He's good everywhere.
I know, but
Career
like,
year.
but his recent numbers at Richmond are pretty good by and
I'm
large.
telling you.
And his engineers led all those laps the last
Thank
couple years.
you. Thank you. Someone call it Westgate. If you're there with your friends, I suggest pulling some money together and booking a cabana at the pool. It's going to be a good day. Kurt Busch, 25-1.
And then we move to 30-1. Erik Jones and Jimmy Johnson. Your Jimmy Johnson stock watch, 30-1.
30-1. That's a good one.
I still believe that if you bet on Jimmy all year long, you would make money.
I would agree. We move into the long shots here a little bit. Daniel Suarez, 60-1. I like that one.
I don't know if he's win. I think he's top 5.
So here's the problem I have with it. You ready? Here you go. We're going to get into other long shots. But here's why. Because they're calling the race to run good.
True.
And what I mean by that is, so let me explain to the fan what I mean. They're not going to throw Hail Marys to get track position. Like, they're going to, even if they're running inside the top 5, they're going to pit with everyone else, put tires on, which is what they should be doing. But that doesn't help me if I got money on for him to win. So, no, I do understand. I think it's a decent odd, but that's my concern.
And then we move into the 100-1 bracket.
Hold on a sec. I got headset problems.
Okay.
You got to make sure I'm ready for this. 100-1. I
100
don't
to 1.
want to be off my headset.
Austin Dillon.
Nope.
That was very quick and dismissive.
There's one other guy.
Oh, he's leading it here. Just be careful.
Ryan Newman.
There he is.
100-1.
A great bet. Like those late cautions at Richmond.
I
We
feel like
always get a late caution. There's nobody you want.
His odds never change, I feel like. He's always 100-1.
I think you can make money off of him if you bet him every year. Every week, every year. I think you can make money.
When's the last time he won?
Phoenix.
Well,
2017.
That's a long time ago. If you were putting,
But it was to Russell's point. Late
the
restart.
same concept.
and it was less than 100 races ago, I bet.
It was.
All right, go ahead. I like that one. Okay, keep going. I like Kurt still the best.
Matt DiBenedetto.
No,
100-1.
no.
William Byron. 300.
That's better than Ryan Newman.
300?
300.
Please tell me that you don't think that's a better
I
bet
think
than that.
absolutely.
Like that is an absolute. After you put your Kurt Busch bet down, which is a must bet, check change and all the slot machines. If you can come up with $25, go put it on the 300-1. You can have a cabana at 2 pools at 300-1. You'd be the party in Vegas.
I mean, the Byron is probably the standout of that.
What's the
Next
field?
block. I believe it was like 500-1.
But they use everybody up. There's no.
Yeah. The other thing, too, with Byron.
Who have I not heard?
Byron ran well at Richmond last year.
How about Paul Menard?
I think he was in the 100-1 block.
All right. How about Alex Bowman? Haven't heard his name.
100-1 block.
But Byron at 300-1?
Byron at 300-1.
I would take Byron over Bowman.
If Chad listens to this, he'll be like, actually he can't with the new rule, but Chad, I got to run to Vegas real quick. My man Canales is going to get that thing dialed in one of these times.
And he's in the TV booth this weekend.
Is he for the Xfinity race?
Xfinity race.
So who's in there with him?
Myself, Michael Waltrip, Adam Alexander.
And Chad Canales? Excellent. My man CK knows his stuff. It's going to be fun to listen to. Shared an office wall with him for a long time. So those are our bets. So can we all agree Kurt Busch is the best bet at 25-1?
Yeah. Kurt Busch and William Byron.
All right, so there you have it. If you're out in Vegas, have a good time, partying with your friends. 2 bets we're looking at. The long shot, William Byron, 300-1 blows my mind, but perhaps not as good as the bet of Kurt Busch at 25-1. We all think that's something that could happen. He could win 25-1. You're going to have a good time. So that's the Vegas long shots. Let's talk about fantasy long shots. We covered all the big names, I think, right? We talked about Keselowski, Harvick, Joe Gibbs Racing, Stewart-Haas Racing. You know who we have, Team Penske. We have not talked about 2 names that their numbers would say they need to be in your fantasy lineup, and that would be Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. The numbers would say that both of those guys at Richmond are potential start candidates, right or wrong.
Correct.
Numbers are correct.
Yes.
So you're going to have them both in?
No.
Okay, why?
Let's
Let's start with Chase Elliott. Let's narrow it down.
I just think there's other guys, those Gibbs guys and Penske guys, and the 25-1 guy is better.
25 Kurt Busch.
Yes, to have in the lineup than Chase Elliott.
So you were on this big usage-saving situation. Does that mean that Chase Elliott's going to take up one of your starting spots?
He's in there right
He
now.
is, all right. So
He's
what pushed you over? Is it something you've seen with the numbers? Is it how he's running the racetrack? Is it because Popeye drove with no power steering? Which A+ move. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now. And here's why. People, they didn't used to have power steering. Well, let me tell you, they didn't run the caster settings on the short steering arms and the quick steering boxers that they run now. To run with no power steering at Bristol right now, A+ move by the driver.
I like him at short tracks in general. But I also
short track racer.
But I also like the fact that he third most points at Richmond last year, averaged 43, was the runner-up in this race last year,
and fourth in the fall.
Yeah,
the numbers are good for him.
And the other thing too is if you take the early incident at Bristol hampered him in the first two stages, but he was in line for probably top 5 stage points in that race up until then.
All right. Well, that left the other big name of Kyle Larson. Is he filling out your lineup, or are you finally in the Steve Letarte rowboat?
I am in the Steve Letarte rowboat of I want to see it. Show it to me.
His numbers are there.
Outside shot.
And let me be clear. So he's a very great driver. Tons of talent. I don't know what the issue is. I mean, it's just not good, right? I am almost like rooting for him a little bit. Like I want him to turn around. I don't want the poor kid to continue, So I'm okay if it's not in my fantasy lineup, just for the good of the sport, for the good of Chip Ganassi Racing, and for the good of Kyle Larson. I'm ready to see a good run.
If I was gonna take a flyer on him, Dover would probably be the place I would take the flyer in a couple weeks.
Really?
Yeah, he's good there. And I would also say if he doesn't get it going there, then I'm really concerned.
You know who else is good there? His teammate.
Yes.
I think that's an interesting thing. So let's talk about his teammate, Kurt Busch. The interesting thing about Kyle Larson and Kurt Busch is, and I never thought of this until we started to put their numbers together, right, because they're a teammate now.
Mm-hmm.
They run well at a lot of the same tracks. Like I think it starts to identify the driver tracks. I mean, they just do. Nothing? You going to leave me out on a limb like that?
I would agree, but I think Kurt runs good at almost all the tracks.
So why would you put Kurt in front of Kyle Larson at Richmond?
Well, look at how well Kurt's running, and then that engineer thing.
If Kurt could get qualifying dialed in.
Dialed in? How about just show up? How about just be around?
Just get a top 12 spot.
Just show up in the last round.
Yeah, he hasn't made the top, the last round.
They'd have if they had qualified at least once in a couple of those races in the top 15, he'd have a win.
But you know what else does it hurt you because he doesn't score as many points on the first stage because he has to start far back.
Yeah,
that hurts his fantasy value.
Like he's only scored stage points.
I think he did
4 times this year.
Fontana was one of them, I think.
4 times.
Back.
Really? There's been 16 stages.
5 times.
That's still surprising, though. Wow, that's great.
Yeah, but I mean, like we talked about, he's probably been starting. His average starting position is probably in what, like 16, 17?
So Atlanta's his only top 10 start this year, and he scored stage points in both stages at Atlanta.
See, I'm telling you, where you start.
And this is a shorter race.
This one does go.
He's one of those. If he was to nab like a top 12, 13 starting spot, I'd figure out a way to get him in.
Now, is this a hard spot to qualify as well, Richmond? I feel like this is a weird spot to qualify because Kyle Busch had those issues last year in qualifying. I think we had other guys have issues like
Keselowski.
Well, you got to remember, it's an impound, right?
Yes,
I believe it's
the lineup will not be.
Don't let me lie.
The lineup will not be official until like
Saturday
Saturday afternoon,
so it's
late
an
Saturday
impound.
morning.
So that is a big difference. So what that means for the listeners is an impound. You have to qualify your race setup. Trucks and Xfinity do it every week. It's nothing special. Cup doesn't, though. So a lot of Cup guys, when you add tape to the grill, it makes the car a little bit free. You normally put some nose weight to it, pump some fuel out, some things to make it qualify better. At an impound, you have to qualify. I do say that gives Team Penske, short-run Team Penske, an advantage in qualifying. So I do think it is tough to qualify there because of that. You can't really crutch it. You have to kind of make do.
And also, as a heads up, you were talking about for the listener, you want to keep tabs Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon.
Because they'll explain it again. Do it all again. Say it again.
So they will qualify Friday night.
Yep.
The lineup is not official until they've all gone through inspection, passed, failed, whatever.
And they do that Saturday.
And they'll do that Saturday.
All right.
So there could be a car or two that drop to the rear.
All right.
Usually,
Good
usually
information.
happens every time.
Good information. RJ's bringing facts and information. I'm telling you right, he's on his A game. Must have not been a late night for the old Phillies last night since
I think it's the polo shirt.
They blew a 6-1 lead.
Is that why the tweet came about the I heard you were putting money in a change jar for the bullpen?
Yeah.
I don't even need to talk about baseball right
Craig
now.
Kimbrell, I'm in if we can get him. I'm in.
Oh boy. I mean, no offense, but your change jar is a little empty after the I Love Bryce Harper contract.
They got money. they got money because of Bryce Harper.
All right, let's run through a few others. These 4 I'm going to go through real quick because I have them as all complete avoids. Matt DiBenedetto, Paul Menard, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ryan Blaney. Give me one reason why those 4 drivers are not avoids at Richmond. Okay, thank you. That was the gavel you heard hit right there. I think the one we have to talk about, Matty D.
I was going to say Matty D would be somebody I'd want to see how he runs in practice.
No, I just
the
can't
others.
get him there.
The others,
Listen,
I wouldn't.
I only need 13 drivers to run 26 races. Matty D at Bristol, okay. That's it. Like, where else am I going to put him in?
Daytona, Talladega?
Maybe. I'll give you that. Good point. I mean, he was good in Daytona. So maybe go back to Daytona in July. I'll be looking at him. But I don't need to use him. Paul Menard, same thing. I like Paul. Nice guy. Penske's running well, but 21 isn't.
He's got 1 top 10 in 24 races there.
Stenhouse, I liked him at Bristol. I was bullish on. I was fine with him, but and it was early. I'm gonna tell you, good thing it had a tunnel. If it didn't have a tunnel,
now you're not going to talk about
the lounge.
You're not going to talk about your boy Newman.
I haven't got there yet. He's not an automatic avoid.
Okay,
these are my automatic avoids. Ryan Blaney, I completely got in. I don't know what happened to me earlier.
30 minutes.
Jumped in
30 minutes ago, I'm in.
I'm
in on Blaney.
I was in, and then I just wanted to sound like RJ, so I'm all 3, the 3 Musketeers, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong.
You tell me all the time. You can split them up.
I know you can't. So that's why those are my 4 must-avoid. Is there another must-avoid that you guys are going to put on the list? Because those are my 4.
No, I mean, Blaney and Menard were my 2 to stay away from.
Okay, you? No, I cut them.
No.
Let's talk about – I think these are all sleepers. Let's have a conversation about Dylan, Byron, Jimmy, Bowman, basically the whole Hendrick camp. I'm going to throw Newman in there as well.
Which Dylan?
Austin.
Okay.
Do you think anybody had Ty Dillon win the first stage at Bristol?
Oh, hell no.
Didn't happen?
Ty Dillon did.
I thought it was great, though.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think Ty Dillon did? He didn't even have himself. But hey, you know what? Let me make a statement though. I have been standing in the booth for years, watching these stage races, frustrated that these guys just don't try to do anything. Bravo, Ty Dillon. Like, teams need motivation, right? A stage win is a dang checkered flag. I know it's green and white, but it's a moment in time that your sponsor sees a checkered flag. It's a moment in time your guys at the shop see a checkered flag. Bravo, Ty Dillon.
No one saw it coming.
No.
Especially Clint Boyer.
Nor Ty.
I mean, they've been running a little better.
They have.
Than last year.
They have.
You could argue.
Listen, what a nice kid, right? Nice kid. Him and his wife are on social media, beautiful little daughter, right? Like, he's the type of guy, grandson to a team owner, that you want to see have success, right? I don't have any favorites in the field other than the guys that are obviously in my fantasy lineup. But, he's a guy you root for, right? The sport was built around guys like him, but I can only root for him with success. Had something to root for in Bristol. I liked it.
Yeah, his average finish this year is 7 positions better than last year at this point.
That's not a small improvement.
So he is running better.
I mean, they're second best.
Well, how about his
RCR
brother,
guy.
Austin? Because no one's going to have Ty Dillon in their lineup at Fantasy in Richmond. Don't stare at me like you're going to.
No, not. But
What I don't like is I come in
Somebody's
here and
going
I say
to.
stuff, and you guys look at me like, man, you're a jerk. People listen because I am definitive, except for the Ryan Blaney thing earlier. Definitive.
And
All
the
right.
Kyle Larson thing last week.
I told you what happened. I was
Yeah.
definitive until I'm telling you, it shook my core. I was on what time's the race start? I'm on my phone. It was bad. We had major problems. All right, Austin Dillon.
Nah.
I'm the same way. William Byron.
At 300 to 1, I'm in.
No, but William Byron is going, mark my words, he is going to have top 15 points.
he got stage points here last year.
He's going to have top 15 points. He's going to store points in at least one stage, and he's going to run inside the top 15.
I was going to say, he ran well in this particular race last year.
So I am on the big try to catch up mode, so I'm not going to have William Byron. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you are the leader, like my man RJ, and you're looking at trying to save a little bit of fuel coming into the start-finish line, I don't think William Byron is a crazy start.
No.
I don't think he's a crazy start.
He started on the front row the last 2 races. Two different tracks, too.
Speaking of which, we're going to circle back before we get our lineups. We're going to talk qualifying. because it's blowing my mind. Your stat, me and you were talking on the phone the other day, blew my mind with this stat. All right, so William Byron, here we are. That leads us to the man of the hour, the conversation that never ends. Running the Boston Marathon on Monday. I'm going to talk to him on Saturday, do a little sit-down interview for NBC to discuss the marathon. 7-time champ, Jimmy Johnson. Is he in? Out? Where you guys stand?
He's on a little bit of a roll.
A little bit of, I mean,
this is the best we've seen him look, probably the better part of the past year.
I like his reaction when he gets out of the car, right? Hey, he acknowledges the positive, quickly lets everybody know that isn't good enough. I'm not here to run there. Does it polite, but definitively. I ran into Kevin Mendering at Bristol, didn't really have time to speak. It was in the middle of practice, but I just think, I think we forget the rules, the crew chief, the organization. There's a lot of things kind of changing, and I think Jimmy's going to get better. I don't have him in at Richmond yet. I know you guys say his numbers are good. You mentioned Dover for Kyle. Like, there are other tracks, and I'm like, gosh, Jimmy's going to be so good there.
Well, I think that's part of
How about this? If it was a Jimmy Johnson banner year, would you say, oh, yeah, Richmond's his place?
Well, if it was Jimmy Johnson banner year, he'd be like Kyle Busch, and you throw him in there.
Yeah, so my point is we just had this conversation about Kyle Busch. Where would you not play Jimmy Johnson on a Jimmy Johnson banner year?
Richmond would be.
Martinsville, he'd be on the list. Phoenix, he'd be on the list. Texas, he'd have been on the list. Richmond would not be on his list even in his banner years.
Correct.
So that's why I'm avoiding him in a down year.
Do you think there's too much focus on the Boston Marathon?
No, not at all.
So there's not that?
No, listen. I'm going to sit down with him, and I actually think that the mental fortitude it takes to train for a marathon matches what you have to do in a race car. It's hours upon hours upon hours of green flag racing. Jimmy Johnson's focus, in my mind, has never wavered. I think his training outside the race car only makes him better inside the race car. I've heard those things. I personally completely disagree. I think that, and here's why. He's not running at noon every day, right? Like, this is a guy that he gets his work in before me and you have our first couple I'll tell you a story. We went to Miami testing. I was the crew chief for, I don't remember. I don't want to misspeak. It was either my last year with Gordon or my first year with Junior. And the crew gets some coffee at the hotel. We're getting ready to ride up for a 7 a.m. garage. Cars go on track at 9, testing for the final race of the year. And at 6:30, we go to pull out of the parking lot, and Jimmy Johnson's running back into the parking lot. He's done with his run. And in my mind, as we drove off, so it was a year we weren't in contention. It might have been my last year with Jeff. We weren't in contention for a championship. And I basically told all the guys, I'm like, you want to know what determination looks like, guys? There you go. He's not out there running with cameras. He's not out there running to do a Gatorade spot. He's not out there running training for the marathon. He is here to win a cup title. And he's done running before we all went to work. I'm telling you, Jimmy Johnson is a 7-time champion because he has a ton of talent and a ton of drive. So I don't think the marathon is a distraction at all. I think you can do it. I have concerns, though. Listen, we've seen him exhausted after that Richmond race. If it's a hot race, you get a little damage, you get some fumes in the car. One of the questions I'm going to ask him is how do you, forget preparing. There's 2 questions. How do you prepare for a marathon? Because I know it's hard to believe, never done it. Second question, how do you prepare those last 36 hours from the race to the start on Monday? So I like Jimmy, but when I show you my lineup, you're going to see why I don't have Jimmy in it. How about Alex Bowman, 88?
No.
Alex?
Sorry,
but I'm in as well. Scored stages. The numbers say okay, but it just doesn't see it. So I think we've kind of covered everybody. We're going to come back, circle back in for starting lineups from the guys on the couch for the NASCAR Fantasy Live. But I think we should take a minute and let's talk about the bonus picks. You have a stage winner each week. You have the race winner each week, manufacturer, and the one that I can never get right, the pole winner. Let's talk a little strategy. Pole winner, Richmond impound race. I like Team Penske and Hendrick Motorsports. Why do I like Hendrick? Give it to me. They have the what?
Most poles this year.
Best starting position, most poles. I knew they qualified good, but I didn't know they dominated. So maybe a Hendrick, and they qualified good at Richmond.
Correct.
So what's your strategy for qualifying? Do you wait and see practice and put whoever was fast in? How do you do it?
I'll put somebody in today or tomorrow, but then I'll circle back after practice.
I put someone in now, and then I'll look at who's fast in practice. The fast 3 in practice, what I look at.
I text Russell if he's at the racetrack and ask him how practice really looks. let's talk about stages. How do you determine your bonus pick? Stage 1, 2, 3, or final stage?
I took a page out of your book and got it all wrong. I just went with the car that I thought was going to win across the board.
Across the board.
I took
I'm going to tell you why that stings at times. If you hit it right, you're like, Yahtzee! There's nothing better.
I took Blaney at Bristol and thought I had stage 1, and then there was that caution.
And then you didn't.
Yeah.
So I picked Kyle Busch for everything.
I want to tell you, my man right here, he doesn't even. There you have it. The expert on the coach just put Kyle Busch in for every pick possible. So here's what I do. I take the pole sitter for stage 1 every week, unless I have the same guy all the way across. Or unless it's an oddball pole sitter and like second or third. My stage 1 winner always comes out of the front 2 rows.
Yeah, I would.
So say what I mean by oddball. I'm not going to pick on William Byron, but if he sits on the pole, which he absolutely could at Richmond, and Kevin Harvick is outside front row and Logano's third, I'm either picking Logano or Harvick. I think they're going to outrun him in stage 1. Stage 2, I always match my race winner. They are always the same. Stage 2 and the race winner are the same, and then I always have my race winner and my race manufacturer be the same. I don't split and hedge my bets.
I go back and forth on that. Like last week, I went Ford because I just thought they had.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I thought they had a higher preponderance of. Yeah,
I know. You tweeted you were going to bring out all these big words. That's
I know.
the first one that had more than a couple syllables.
I used a couple. I'm impressed.
I'm impressed.
I always hedge my bets. Kyle Busch and Ford.
That doesn't surprise me. This guy right here. His biggest gamble's going to work.
It is a gamble with you.
It is. All right, so that's basically what we think for your NASCAR Fantasy Live lineup. So the question is now, who are the guys on the couch going to have in heading to Richmond? So now it's the time. We went through all the guys. We're going to start with the leader in the clubhouse, the man with the most points. RJ, let me have it, your Richmond lineup.
Heavy on Gibbs, going Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, Eric Almirola, Suarez in the garage. I will be keeping an eye. If Truex looks off and Harvick looks on, that's a flip-flop. That's going to happen.
All right.
So I have Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex, then Kurt Busch and Clint Boyer with Harvick in the garage.
I'm all in. I'm heavyweight, toe-to-toe, big battle. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick. That's right. I put them all in. Chase Elliott in the garage.
I can't wait till
That's
there's
not
an
bad.
incident with 2 of them, and he's got to make a Sophie's choice.
Are we going to just total points next week? I mean, how confident are you going to be in an incident with one of them? Because that lineup right there is going to kick your lineup down the street like a can.
How much am I up by
That's
again?
strong. That was strong.
I'm just telling you. You tell me who you didn't want in that lineup.
That was strong.
But to your point from Cole, what happens if something happens to one of those guys?
So I have thought about that. Kyle Busch is my number 1 save. If there's 2 issues, Kyle Busch is coming out first. My second save are the 2 Penske cars. No offense to Harvick. He's the last on the list. No, him and Hamlin probably. But that's kind of how I look at it. 18 out first, then both Penske cars, then the other ones.
Where are you on Kyle Busch usage?
I don't know. Bad. Heavy.
I've used them, I think, 3. And they've been the 3 wins. So
More than
I'm
3. Let's see exactly.
I'm down to 6.
You have 6 left, or you've
Yes.
used them 6 times?
No, I'm down to 6 left.
Oh, no. I think I've used him more times than that. Where is he at in here? I'd have to select him. It's not. See, it's so bad that I don't even look at it.
It's the first one. 6 of 10 again.
Yeah.
I've used him 4. I still got 6 left.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good about that. All right, there you have it. Listen, we would keep talking, but it would just turn into gibberish. RJ's going to change his lineup anyway. So listen.
So are you.
I am. I might. You never know. Only if there's a penalty. So listen, subscribe and rate and review NASCAR Fantasy Fastlane. We always talk about NASCAR Fantasy Live. We talk about props. We have a good time. We even talk about some Vegas odds. If you have any questions through the course of the weekend, you can always tweet myself. You can tweet RJ. Twitterless Russell is absolutely useless all weekend long. If he doesn't tell you on this podcast, you don't get the information. Thanks for listening, and follow along for videos all weekend long.